one of the most prolific rock acts in music history. Shinedown is here. Now I say most prolific, or one of the most prolific, because get this, 22 singles throughout their career for Shinedown. Every single one of them, top 5 on the Billboard rock charts. Absolutely incredible. They returned May 4th with a brand new record called Attention, Attention. We have their new music video for Devil to check out right here.
I bet you're wondering why we all gathered you here.
Ladies for showing up. It's awesome to see you.
We have
we see some familiar faces. So it's awesome.
Yeah. That is cool, right?
That is
cool
great.
thing about you. hitting the same towns and whatnot, seeing some familiar faces. But this is a loud crowd. We've got a good crowd, and this is gonna be a very fun chat. It's always fun when the rock bands come through. You know what I mean? It's also like there's an extra level to the fandom of rock that I definitely appreciate. But you guys, I mean, I said it in the open: 22 singles, all top 5. Half of those are #1 hits. I mean, that's crazy. If you guys were like a baseball team, you'd have like the best batting average I think of all time.
I think it's because we just don't get complacent.
Yeah.
We're not. We haven't.
Also, we're a baseball team.
Yeah, softball.
Keep looking.
Low-key.
No, but that's amazing. I mean, it's you, just for if you don't know at home, you're watching, even if you're here live with us, it's you guys, and then just above you, by I think 1 now, is 3 Days Grace, and then above that is Van Halen. That's all that really stands in the way of you guys having the most.
When did we find out about that? Because that was recent.
Yeah, we heard about it about a year and a half ago, and I think 3 Days Grace is actually tied now. With
Okay.
Van Halen. So I think they're
And that's like a totally surreal thing for me because the first band I was ever in was a Van Halen cover band. Like Eddie Van Halen is my end all be all. And I've never met him. I don't know if I want to or not, but that's just huge, man.
Yeah. Always roll the dice with the heroes, right?
A little bit,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's got to be a little bit surreal, right? And I mean, I'm sure with a band like you guys, as accomplished and as much as you've achieved over your career, we could spend this entire episode talking about the accomplishments. But to be honest, I'm far more concerned with sort of the why behind all of the accomplishments, and I wanted to pose it to each of you individually because I'm sure that the answer could be different. Is what is it about Shinedown that has made you guys so successful? That has made this music really transcend the rock genre, cross over into just mainstream music, and be so long lasting?
Honesty.
Honesty.
You took my answer.
And being necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is if you take everything out of the equation, the fact of the matter is all of these songs that we've written through the years, with this record, which is a huge accomplishment that we were able to not only record it, but getting ready to present it to the world. None of these songs, man, were made up. We can't pull it out of thin air. We have to live it. A lot of the songs have to do with people that we've met over the years, the situations we've been in. And there's a lot of humility with the 4 of us. We actually genuinely care about each other. We could all ride on separate buses if we wanted to, we choose not to. And the fan base. We've always said that we only have one boss. It just happens to be everybody in the audience. And that's true, that's real.
I love that.
To be 100% with everybody in this room, a lot of this record was inspired by the fan base.
A lot.
I mean, a lot.
I mean, I had this when we were working on writing and producing and even mixing the record. The visual I kept with me is of our fans and the dedication they have to rock music and to our band, and we just wanted to inject that into the record. And our fan base is an extension of our band. We were talking about this yesterday on the ride in, that sometimes the rock genre and their fan base is looked at as some subgenre now, and just some leftover of a bygone era or something. And we go out every night and we see thousands and thousands of rock fans that are just completely dedicated to what they love, and the fact that they love us for what we do is such an honor. So
We love them right back.
yeah, and that's not fan service either. That's the truth. And so we just wanted to be unapologetically rock on this record, really, and I kept our fans in my mind, and that visual of that view that we're so blessed to have, which is standing on stage in front of tens of thousands of people and just it made me excited to create something that we could deliver to them.
And one thing too with the album also, because it was done last year, normally when we get off a touring cycle, we just take the following year to do the album. And we decided not to do that with this particular record, so we actually had tours booked last year. One of them, we got an opportunity of a lifetime to do, we spent 44 days in the UK with Iron Maiden. And learned a great deal about a band that truly has a legacy, not only the band themselves, but their fan base as well. I have never seen just that kind of loyalty to a band. I mean, the only other band I know that has that kind of loyalty from fans is us. And, you know, we take that very seriously. But there was this young man, he was about 15 years old. It was in one of the meet and greets during the Maiden tour. And there was probably 50 people in the meet and greet. And he had asked me, he said, hey, after you're done, could I talk to you about something after you finish signing and doing pictures? I said, yeah. So we finished up, I went back to the young man and I was like, shoot, what you got? He said, I have a request. And I said, okay. And he talked about our catalog. He talked about the fact that he knows we're in the middle of making a new record. And he said, can you make it heavier? And there was something interesting about the way that he said it, because heavy can be put in a lot of different meanings. Heavy can mean percussive, heavy can mean sonically, heavy can mean lyrically. But I think we all got where he was coming from. There's a little bit of a wink to him with the fact that Devil was the first single, because it's the beginning of the story on Attention Attention, but he asked for it to be heavier, so it's about to get heavy. I'm just making the point that we're listening to our
He also
audience.
asked for it to not be so self-helpy.
He did say, don't make this so self-helpy. Yeah. Well, I love that though, man. Like I love the fact that our base, whether they've been there from day one or they're just kind of finding out about the band, they have no problems being straight to the point of whatever they want to ask. I love that.
Very honest.
Do you think that comes from the honesty of the music? Do you think because the music is so honest, they feel like they have the comfort to sort of talk to you that way?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we started an honest conversation with honest music and honest lyrics. And nothing that you've ever heard by Shinedown is a made-up story. It's all come from somewhere, a real experience. Especially this record, because this record is autobiographical. It's all of the experiences you're going to hear about on this record are all what we lived over the past 2.5 years.
Right.
So
Somebody in the band went through them.
Yeah. And so I think that out of that honesty, you get honesty in return, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I appreciate when our fan base is honest with us.
Now, on the topic of honesty, I know you guys sort of had this collective discussion heading into this record that nothing was off limits in terms of topic, in terms of things that you're going to explore. And it obviously, I got to listen to the record. It's an amazing record. It's going to be out everywhere again May 4th. But when I heard that you had to have this talk, okay, with this one, with Attention Attention, or what would become Attention Attention, nothing's off limits. Was there a point in your careers where certain things you knew, I'm just going to shy away from that? Maybe you were honest, but maybe you weren't willing to go towards certain areas.
Not that, I don't think, but a conversation that Brent and I had, which is, and I have to say, at first it wasn't really this conversation, nothing is off limits. I think we wrote a few songs and didn't really know what we were writing about in a way. I mean, we knew what each song was about. We didn't know it was going to become this or a larger story. And I remember, Brent coming to me with some lyrics for a song we were working on, a song called Get Up, which is on the record. And he didn't bring me the lyrics right away, or what he had so far lyrically, because the music was sort of done, and the melodies were sort of laid out. He kind of hid them from me for a few days, and then he finally showed up at the studio. I finally got him through the door, and he goes, yeah. I've had this for a few days, but I was nervous to tell you about it. And he's like, I wrote the song about you and about my depression issues that I deal with. And we finished that song, we finished the lyrics, we recorded it, and then we kind of looked at each other and it was like, I think now it's okay to talk about all of the other baggage and into his addiction issues and everything we deal with that, everything the band deals with my depression. And it kind of became okay at that point to open ourselves up a little more personally than we probably ever have.
And it also became the fact that there was no more concern about crossing a line because we just removed the line.
I think in the past too that it was always honest music and it was about us, but maybe we hit it in ambiguity. Why can't I talk? Ambiguity.
That's a tough one. That's like $100 word.
And I was gonna say another word and I changed it, but I think we would hide it kind of in the sheets a little bit to maybe disguise ourselves from that we either weren't, maybe trying to convince ourselves that we weren't talking about ourselves in the past. And I think this record, it's all pretty plainly laid out there.
That's been the actually the most freeing thing about this record is, and I was going to make the point that you made, was that we've always written honestly. It's just like sometimes maybe after the song is out, maybe we describe it a little differently than what the genesis was for that, what the seed was for the song. Maybe it was something else. And we kind of find more meaning in it after the fact, and it kind of gets, you know, we kind of explain it a little differently. On this, it's just, no, this is what it's about, this is what it is. It's about, you know, some, you know, 4 guys that either through sadness or whatever, anger, you know, with depression and addiction issues or whatever, you know, kind of destroyed ourselves and had to rebuild everything. So.
And the other thing too, going back to that young man, you know, when we were in the UK, one of the other things he said was, "I just want you to punch me in the chest." And
Who's this
And
young
then Brent
kid?
did. Then he actually punched him in the chest.
And what I'm getting at,
Still a lawsuit pending.
but what I'm getting at is the fact that it wasn't about sugarcoating something, and it wasn't about being safe. He stepped up to us, and he kind of looked at all 4 of us, and he said, "I know you're hungrier than you think you are." And that was inspiring, because this is our 6th record on Atlantic Records. We've been a part of Atlantic Records, we're talking about almost 2 decades. And the one thing that Atlantic has always allowed us to do, you know, it was born from Ahmet Ergen, was let the artist be able to develop. Let the artist be an artist. You're not going to be able to all the time, you know, just hurry someone along. You've got to give, you know, certain people need time to hone it in and figure it out. And, you know, with our label, they've never pressured us to hurry up on an album. And
When have they ever policed us?
never,
Which
absolutely
is
not.
kind of like you
Yeah.
go do your thing, especially when it comes to self-producing a record, which Eric isn't the bass player in this band that produced a record. You kind of would get a side eye about that, and they didn't police us at all on this record, and they never gave us a time limit, and they never have. So, you know, that's
And the same thing with the management company, because we've been managed, you know, by Indigoot McGaffey Promotions, Bill McGaffey, for 2 decades. We never even took a meeting with another manager. And, you know, we're very, very lucky. We really have an infrastructure that is a family, you know, and these individuals, you know, Julie Greenwald and Craig Cowman at Atlantic Records, what Zach just said, they have never, ever policed us. They are like, turn it in when you're ready. And we don't take that lightly, because not every label is like that. And for them to allow us to have the time that we needed, we gave them everything we had.
Hell yeah.
I'm not gonna say there wasn't some nervous laughter from the label and management occasionally, like, "Hey, we haven't heard anything yet." It's coming.
It's still there.
Okay.
We're
And I mean,
working on it.
and Steve Robertson, who's our A&R at Atlantic, who's been a champion of ours from the beginning, a testament to him is he, like Brent said, he never called me one time asking to hear anything. He knew what the songs were. We turned in demos, so he knew the material was there. But hearing the finished product, I mean, he showed up basically when we were done. I mean, it wasn't mixed yet, but all the tracking was done, and he showed up and, you know, put on a brave face and came in and listened, and I think he was pretty blown away by what he heard. So, but they really did, man. They let us. I mean, this record more than any of the others is 1000% Shinedown.
Yeah, they let us be ourselves.
There's no other.
Rarely you say.
The only person creatively, aside from Mark Lebreski, who did this amazing artwork, the only person to touch the audio was Ted Jensen when he mastered it, and the rest of it was us, from the beginning to the end.
It's sort of a cliche thing to say with a new record, right? This is your most personal yet. A lot of that term gets thrown around, but really, this is the most personal Shinedown record between the honesty that we talked about, and then Eric, you producing the entire record.
Yeah, the whole end mixed it in.
To
And
make,
mixed it.
and was that, I don't want to say it was happenstance, but was that the initial idea going in, or were you just kind of working on stuff? Guys, I know you brought the guys' arrangements, I think, or compositions.
I don't think he wanted to produce it at first.
Right.
Like, I don't think anybody else can produce this.
Yeah.
When
Here's
we
a really good saying about it, though.
Yeah, I mean, when Steve Robertson first had the conversation, the business conversation about me producing the record, I said, because I told him, I said, I know what the scope of this record is. I know what it wants to be. I know what these songs want to become. it's not saying I had it all figured out, because there are several songs, including the Human Radio, which is the other track that's out there right now, that it took a long time to come into being. But I knew what like I said, the easiest way to put it is I knew what it wanted to be. You know, it's a breathing thing, a living thing, and it's going to let you know what it wants. But I said I would rather go crazy making this record myself than go crazy watching someone else try to make it.
I love that saying.
And
that's about as straightforward as it needs to be.
And I did. I mean, I didn't. You talk about like no days off. I mixed on Christmas Day. I mean, it was like, you know, it was just go, go, go. Don't stop until it's finished. There were some moments of, just like with any creator, there are gonna be moments of self-doubt, but I had these guys to talk me out of that. And, you know.
And the record sounds. The word I use a lot with this is it's necessary. Like the sound is urgent, and the sound is very now. I think a lot of times, and don't get me wrong either, we all collectively, we've been very, very fortunate because we've had some amazing teachers. We've worked with some incredible producers and some amazing engineers. We brought Doug McKean in to engineer, you know, part of the Tension alongside Eric. But, you know, just looking at the scope of everything, sometimes you hear the same people are doing the same records, or you see that what we wanted to do was, he had a sound in his head, and we all talked about it, but there were moments where it's like, we didn't even need to speak to one another because we were already finishing each other's sentences musically, and material, and songs, and lyrically. That was one of the most rewarding things for me, working with the four of them, because they really pushed me, being the main lyricist in the band, but we all contributed to this record because it's about us, you know? But it's big, man, and it sounds, it's
a huge record.
It's definitely a necessary album.
Yeah. It's a weird question, but when I was going through, I listened to it, because this is, I don't want to call it a concept album, but
You can call it a story album.
Story album.
That's how we kind of.
And it's cool because the album kind of bookends itself, right?
It does.
Yeah. So it's a really cool listening experience, and it's one that sort of commands you to listen to it all the way through. I don't think anyone should, if you go out on May 4th and pick it up, I don't think you should like pick and choose. I think you should really listen to it from front to back.
It was intended to be listened to, at least the beginning, when you listen to the record. We wanted people to understand that if you want to get the full interpretation of it, it may be difficult to do if you, like, I used to do this thing back in the day where, like, I would get a record, and I don't know why I did it, I just would do it. I found that for whatever reason, the number 6 song on an album was always a great song for some reason. So I would always start with whatever the 6th track was. That's what I'd start with. Okay. And yeah, I mean, we want people to have their favorites off of this record, and that means a lot to us also. But we wanted to take people on a ride, man, and it's a ride.
And that's another, you know, going back to the rock and roll thing. You know, rock fans love albums.
Yeah.
And there's such a single-driven market now, where some artists don't even get to make a record anymore. They just record a few singles and that's it. And this was sort of a throwback to the things that I loved about, you know, the experience of listening to an album, and especially when it's a larger story.
Yeah.
It's once again, you know, we thought about the fan base, and also kids that might not have ever listened to an album before. You know, they're on Spotify and they're just clicking through song after song after song, and you present them with something like this, and they, Brent makes a great point. I didn't know you could do this.
Wait a minute, you mean there's another way to experience listening to music?
Right.
Yeah,
That should be a hell of a first album to ever listen to, by the way.
I would love that.
That'd be incredible.
And it's interesting too when you talk about like downloads and you talk about streaming, and we've seen other artists, you know, whether they're in a band or they're soloist, and all different, you know, types of, you know, music, different genres. But for us, man, rock and roll is not a genre of music. Rock and roll is a way of life.
It's an attitude.
It is totally an attitude. And you know, when we look at this, you know, the younger generation, they didn't grow up necessarily with CDs or even cassettes or however you want to look at it. But it's interesting to see, especially like right around 12 to 18. You know, now they're figuring out like what vinyl is, and figuring out it's interesting, the relationship between holding it. You know what I mean? Because where I come from and where all of us come from is I wanted to know what the lyrics were. I wanted to know who wrote what. I wanted to know where did you record it? Who recorded it? Who produced it?
Right.
You know, who did the artwork? You know, what does the band look like?
I would be
You know?
sitting on the stage right now if it weren't for that. If I could have
Yeah.
looked at records and gone, who produced this and who mixed it, because that's what I was into when I was a kid. You know, it's like I was the recording aspect of things.
Yeah.
It made me want to have my name on something like that. So when I learned those skills, and those skills are the reason why I ended up in this band.
Yeah.
And eventually ended up producing this record and mixing it. I wouldn't be standing on the stage if it weren't for holding something in my hand and going down the rabbit hole of who worked on it, who played what, and how it was done. And, you know, so hopefully maybe one day, you know, some kid will go, who's this jackass Eric Bass?
Perfectly described.
So when I flip over Attention on May 4th, will I
Yes.
see that 15-year-old's name as like an executive producer on the
You
album?
should be, actually.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day he'll be the Prime Minister of the UK or something.
Yeah.
I sound like my kind of guy.
His
Yeah.
name is Eric Rickard.
There you go. Is that really his name?
No.
Oh.
He's my assistant in the studio.
Okay.
I love that Rickard just got a shout
Shout out, plug
He's
for
a
Eric.
15-year-old boy.
Eric Rickard has been working with me for about 15 years. So he and I are great friends. He has a lot of him in this record too. So.
That's right. I do want to get to the fans. We're going to get to some studio audience questions, but I do want to talk really briefly about the co-headlining tour this summer with Godsmack.
Yeah, we're
It's
supposed
going to be so
super
rad.
excited.
You're doing like amphitheaters. I know you're hitting the PNC out of Jersey. You're doing the I don't know what they call it now, Long Island, but Jones Beach essentially.
Yeah.
But that's going to be amazing, guys.
Yeah, and it's a lot of camaraderie too. Sully, frontman for Godsmack, gave me a call in December of last year because I had actually kind of put it out because I was pretty sure like what the timing was going to be for the summer for 2018 and where we were going to be and what have you. I talked to Eric and I talked to Barry and I talked to Zach about it, but we really just wanted to tour with a band that, you know, had a catalog, and we hadn't had a chance to tour with them in a while, and it's more about a camaraderie, man, and really doing something this summer where you've got two bands that, once again, because of a very strong fan base, you know, there's a lot of material, and he could not have been more genuine and such a gentleman on the phone with me when he gave me a shout in December, and he was just like, man, I'm into it if you guys are, and that's really just how it all started. We just want to give everybody this summer, we want to give them a tour that's really, really exciting and super, super fun and crazy over the top. Just what rock and roll really is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what we're getting ready to do for everybody.
That's rad. Good times for sure, guys. Let's get to some of these fan questions. Where will the first one be coming from? In the back over here.
So I have kind of a personal question for the three of you guys.
Sure.
So it seems like Shinedown never stops working. There's not a time I go to the Shinedown website and not find a tour, albeit Shinedown or Smith and Myers or whatever's going on.
What was that other thing you said? I didn't recognize. What's Smith and Myers?
So it's literally nonstop with you guys. One, how do you do it, and how do you find time for your families and for yourselves?
We do it because we're compelled to do it, to be honest with you. I think as we've gotten a little bit older, we've learned what the meaning of, you know, kind of burning the candle at both ends means, and, you know, you can spread yourself a little too thin. I think we're better at scheduling things now. I think that we can kind of look at a year and map it out just because it's experience. We know what we want to accomplish. Anytime that you're getting ready to embark on a brand new album, it's a brand new journey. So you don't necessarily want to do the same things you've done in the past, and you want to be able to, one of the things about Attention from the touring aspect this time around is it's very much a global record. There's 7 billion people on this planet, and we want to play for all of them. So there's a lot more international going on in this 3-year trajectory, if you will, because, you know, we kind of we see it all the way through the cycle going all the way to 2020. So with that, you have to be able to have a dynamic not only the four of us, because we have families, and then we have our group. So, but in answer to your question, it's important to be out there and be relevant. But I think we make better decisions now in regards to the schedule.
Smarter, not harder.
Yeah, we try anyway.
We try to work smarter, not harder.
We're working on the smarter.
We're working on the smarter, and we still do the harder. So we're trying to figure. To me, the first year of any record you release is going to be a lot of work. You know, and 3 of us have kids, and 3 of us are married. So you know, it definitely gets harder as you get older.
We always say you're either built for this or you're not, and that also goes for our spouses. And I mean, my wife Kelly and I've been together for 24 years, married for 15. So she's learned this as I've learned it, which is a blessing for me because she just takes everything in stride. And it's just our life. It's just how it is. I imagine that if you know,
And you were already fully in marriage before you joined
I was,
the band,
yeah.
so it was like
Yeah.
my wife just said, oh, by the way, this is what I do. Sorry.
But the thing is we've all got, the 3 of us who are married, Zach, myself, and Barry, we have very understanding wives, and
Yes.
they know this is what we do, and we also don't have rock star wives. We don't have, none of our wives are ever going to be on the wives of any city. The wives of New York, the rock star wives of we're very, very normal people, and they don't give 2 shits about what we do either. I get home and it's, hey, the porch needs to be fixed, or the grass needs to be mowed, or whatever,
We're not paying somebody to do it, you're doing it.
So with that comes, and it's not always roses. I mean, they get frustrated about schedules and look at all these dates, and I mean, I'm not going home until September, so pretty much.
Yeah.
But we have a great support system outside of each other that really helps with that.
Definitely. And before we get to the next question, I didn't notice the patches, guys. Is there tension patches?
Yes. but
They're
not-
statements.
this is
Statements
kind of
more than
like our-
anything.
Are they available for fans? Because I'm sure fans are watching at home.
They'll be available pretty
We'll
soon.
make
Alright.
similar ones available. I know that.
It's
Laura-
our outlaw motorcycle club.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's rad.
We ride 3-wheelers.
Yeah.
No, so
They ride 3-wheelers.
we wanted to-
I still ride a big wheel.
We wanted to be uniformed for the tour, so we got together and we kind of came up with a bunch of jackets, and he has the South Carolina patch of his, Brent, I have the Tennessee on ours.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so it's kind of this uniform type thing that we do on stage. We didn't want to, we've been wearing suits on stage for a long time with the vest and the tie and the blazer and all that. So we wanted to do something different, but still felt like us, but also made a statement. I think that's kind of where.
And we're gonna evolve that too as this record cycle goes on as well. But this figured it was a nice way to start.
Yeah, no, I dig it, for sure. Let's get to the second question. Coming from right here.
So this question's for the whole band, which is all your music, but particularly The Sound of Madness, really influenced what I love about music and like how music like relates to me. So I was wondering, is there any albums or artists that influenced you and created your love for music?
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's huge, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
For me, U2, just as a band and as a statement, we talk about statement bands. To me, people who write amazing songs and make you feel something, and also, try to make the world a better place. If you can do all 3 of those things while kind of walking a line of both sides and not, stretching too far across. We were talking about this on the way here. We never want to alienate our audience into any belief that we have, because our audience is so very diverse. We want everybody to, Eric said this, one of the last things he said in the car days was, he's for humanity. I'm the same way, I don't care what you believe or what you don't believe, but it's about humanity. And I think U2's been, my brother calls them the world's band. They're the band of the world. So for me, U2 was a big influence in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on all the glam and rock and roll excess of the 80s and those bands.
Poison influenced your lifestyle.
Hey, he's not lying. I play guitar because I heard Talk Dirty to Me on the radio. Yeah. I mean, that's what made me want a guitar. That sound, for whatever reason, I was just at that age where I was sitting in front of a stereo all the time, listening to whatever was on top 40, and that's what was popular at the time. So, but yeah, I mean, like I talked about Van Halen earlier. I mean, that band for me coming up was huge. Both iterations of it, Van Hagar, Van Halen, whatever. I consumed all of it, and Even to this day, though, like I hear records that inspire me from current bands, and it causes me to, there's a band from the UK called Dead, and not D-E-D, but D-E-A-D, and they're sort of under the radar right now, but they have a great record out, called The Golden Age of Not Even Trying. They're sort of like a punk rock thing, and I'm really into their record.
It's a fantastic record.
And they're a bunch of 20-year-old kids, man, and I'd probably fanboy a little bit talking to them about their record because it's really effing cool, And so
They hit you up the other day.
they did, man. They offered to send me a vinyl, which is awesome, we meet fans in meet and greets where they'll say things like, "You don't know what your music means to me," and I say, "Well, yeah, I do, because I have those artists that I love, and their music means a lot to me too." So just know that, that we know exactly what you guys mean when you say that, because music gets us through the day and through our lives, just like it does you guys. So
My dad had a lot to do with it. I was totally just into singers that just were aggressive and had an attitude, and but when I was 14, my dad gave me an anthology tape of a guy named Otis Redding, and
he's always got the coolest answers, doesn't he?
I kind of like rolled my eyes a little bit at my father when he handed it to me. He was like, "Just give it a chance." And the moment that I heard that, an entirely new world kind of opened up. And Otis Redding got me to Sam Cooke, which got me to Al Green, which got me to Percy Sledge, which got me to Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye got me to Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday got me to Ella Fitzgerald. Ella Fitzgerald got me to newly inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Nina Simone. And I think it was none of these people were desensitized. They just evoked an emotion when they sang. So R&B and Motown became a huge, huge influence. You were talking a minute ago about attitude. One of the stories that I or interviews that while we were making Attention, I read was one of Miles Davis's last interviews before he passed away. And the interviewer asked him, he said, "How do you feel that jazz is like the mud of music?" And Miles Davis said, "Well, I think you got that all wrong, man, because the music's in you or it's not." And it wasn't that statement, it was the next statement that he made, which was, listen, if you're gonna tell a story, tell it with some attitude. And that kind of stayed with us, during this whole process of making this album. But for me, and what really, really gets me going, man, is when I can hear the conviction in the vocal, and if the story is real. So I don't know if that helps out, but that's kind of how I look at it.
Just to remind you, I said poison.
Your timing is impeccable.
He's always got the best answers, man.
CC
You got better
DeVille.
at your comedic timing.
We have time for one final question for the fans.
Make it good, no pressure.
Don't be the poison of questions.
Man!
First, I want to thank you guys for doing the interview. This is awesome. We're like kids in a candy store here.
It's our pleasure. Thanks for showing up.
Great. My question is, I've seen you many times. I've seen you with so many different bands. Who is the most memorable or the most fun to tour with?
Wow.
It depends on what era of Shinedown you're talking about. Are you talking about the like the pirate ship era, like we're doing all the things we shouldn't be doing era, or are you talking about right now where we're choir?
Where we remember things.
When we're sober.
For me, we got to tour Canada with Kiss. That was really cool, and I wasn't even that big of a Kiss fan before that. And then it was like watching that band.
He does the best Paul Stanley impression.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do it.
You do it.
Dude,
What do I-
finish this answer with Paul Stanley.
I can't. The onstage Paul Stanley?
Yeah.
Jericho will be proud.
I can't because I love Paul and I don't want Paul to watch
Keep going,
this.
keep going.
Do it for Jericho.
So for me, it was that and Iron Maiden. I mean, and we went to play some shows with Metallica in 2013 in Europe, and that was really a lot of fun for me just to kind of watch these bands who are legends. And also, it said a lot for us as a band because you're talking about, when you talk about Metallica, you talk about Kiss, you talk about Iron Maiden, you are talking about, and to me it is undisputed, the three most dedicated fan bases, period, end of story. People ask about Kiss, Kiss has to be the hardest fan base, and it was tough to crack, and they were hard. Metallica the same way. Iron Maiden has the toughest fan base I've ever seen, because Iron Maiden fans like Iron Maiden, period. Like, I don't think they listen to other bands, like they just like Iron Maiden.
Henry Rollins said that when you're on stage, you're opening for Iron Maiden, you're just something that's between them and Iron Maiden.
That's all you are. And then it was a great experience to see these people who only like one band, it seems, come up to you in the city on a day off and go, I really like your band, and you're like, really? I see you in the first row every night. You're expressionless. You don't make any, they would just literally sit with their arms folded. The rest of the crowd, the front row of Iron Maiden is the front line of a war. It truly is. I mean, they're the most hardcore, more hardcore than Kiss fans, more hardcore than Metallica fans. It is like a danger zone. You're like, they might throw something at me. I have no idea what's going to happen.
But to that note, though, by the third or fourth song of our set every night, because we have this gentleman who's one of the best frontmen in rock and roll.
Refuses to give up.
That permeates us, and it gets into us too, and we all take on that attitude of no, you're not getting away with this. We're gonna get you. And I don't think there was a single Iron Maiden show that we didn't have people by. We didn't have the crowd by the third or fourth song.
Yeah.
And the hands in the air, jumping up and down, doing. It almost felt like a Shinedown show.
It felt like your first tour too. It felt like these people didn't know your songs. It doesn't matter if you had 22 hits. They know none of them.
But there was one guy in particular who I saw down in the front row in the first show. He just arms crossed and he's just staring at you the whole time. And the next night he was kind of like this. And then by the third show he was kind of relaxed a little bit. He was at every single show. Every single show. Like, this guy doesn't have a job or anything. And
they take their holiday over there.
Yeah,
Work 6 months out of the year and works with Iron Maiden the other 6.
But by the last 3 or 4 shows, he was singing every word of our songs. And that means so much.
I gotta give, and I'm gonna do it because I learned a tremendous amount of production. Just the idea and like the dynamic of putting production together, like really like looking at your audience, what the songs are gonna do, the lighting, the video, pyrotechnics, lasers, however you want to look at it. But in 2000, I think it was 2010 or 2009, 2010, Nickelback took us out. And you know what? That band, I didn't know, I knew the songs and all that. This is right when there's a song you may have heard of, it's called Second Chance. And it was crossing all 5 formats. That song actually crossed, it became a #1 on alternative, on mainstream, on active, hot AC, and we almost got it on top 40. We were #2. We couldn't get the Black Eyed Peas. But it was
Where are they now?
We did get the Casey Kasem thing.
But we did get the Casey Kasem thing with
Yeah.
Second Chance, which was, you know who Casey Kasem was and is. Right. I hate.
I didn't know if you knew.
I hate the fact that Casey's gone.
He feels like one of those guys that's still here though.
I know.
He does,
He really,
it's
really
like John
does.
Candy, like you feel
When
like
he
Well, it's
signed-
like Shaggy on Scooby-Doo.
When Casey Kasem signed off the air, the #1 song in the country, which was the last time that he was on the radio. He signed off after 30 plus years. Second Chance was the #1 song
That's
in
really
the United
nice
States.
song.
So it was the last.
It was the last
yeah,
one.
top 40.
It's the last song because it was the #1 song.
It was his last one.
That's a hell of a tree effect.
It's amazing, yeah.
But when we were out there with Nickelback, just being able to, and we were kind of having to just, that production was huge. so we were very, very respectful around everyone. We were the second of 4 bands. I believe it was Sick Puppies, then us, then Breaking Benjamin, and then Nickelback. But watching what they did and how they did things and where the placement was in each song and how Chad would work the audience, how they all would work the audience, everything had a reason for being there. And Oris Henry, who was their front of house engineer, who kind of has a, in the industry, he's a very unique cat. He's an amazing front of house engineer.
He's straight out of the movie Rockstar.
He totally is. I mean, like right before they go on, he's got stuff hanging off of the soundboard. He's saging everything. Like you can't get near him. You know what I mean? And he, like, 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights, 4 nights, because we did 2 months with him. And he kept seeing me out there, you know, on the barricade around front of house. And he looked at me one night and he was like, "Come here." And he was like, "You want to come in here?" And I was like, "If you don't mind." He was like, "Come on." So like by the end of the tour and everything, he had a chair out there for me every night. And I would sit and he would show me how he was mixing certain things. He had no problems telling me how he was doing certain stuff and how he was, because they sound insane live. They really, really do. They are just really powerful. And it comes down to this: they're pros. They are the definition of professional. And I learned a lot from that tour. You know, it's, you know, looking at how they did certain things. And, you know, I remember the very first time that I mentioned the word pyro in 2012, and everybody in management was like, "Oh my God, no." Like, because, you know, like every time we blow up something, you know, they're all going like, "There's $1,000, there's another $1,000.
Every time you hear that boom, that's a car payment.
100%. Every single thing that goes off in a pyro show is a house payment.
So
And they taught me a lot. They taught us all a lot.
And I mean, Mike Kroger, Chad's brother, a lot of people don't know, but you know, Chad's the face of the band, Mike's the brains, and he's the guy that kind of formulates everything, does all the business, and he's also a bass player, which makes him super awesome.
Yeah.
But every night,
We will hold that against
into the show, off stage, right into the accounting office. You know, he's actually a friend of mine, and we talk occasionally about I actually ask him about business stuff a good bit. He's a really, really smart guy. So, yeah, I think it's ridiculous that people give Nickelback a bad rap. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing.
We will always stand up for that. I'm going to look at the camera. We will always stand up for that band forever, just because we learned, like Brent said, we learned so much from it. And all it was they just got so big.
The most played song of the 2000s,
yeah,
right?
I mean, it's like, you know, you get too big, and it's like, to me, that'll never be a problem.
Getting
too big is not a bad thing.
I do personally have one thing though that kind of I think it'll always be number one. But back in 2003, when the debut album, The Whisper, we were out with Van Halen, and I didn't grow up listening to Van Halen. And for whatever reason, me and Eddie Van Halen kind of hit it off. And there was one afternoon where he asked me to come into his dressing room, and he showed me how to play Eruption. And that one's probably one of those moments that are kind of like up there.
See, it's because you told him the Otis Redding story.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the band yet, so I didn't get the experience. That's really cool. I never knew that.
I feel like we did.
I know about the Eruption. I know about the deli trip.
I asked him, well, yeah, the deli trip.
We don't want to talk about the deli trip.
But it was so funny, man, because it was like, you know, I asked him. I was like, "How do you get it to?" It was the tapping. I was like, "What are you doing? You know, are you just like tapping on a string?" And he showed me. He was like, "Well, let me show you." And you know, for whatever reason, I'm not tapping. I'm doing this, and he's doing like an upswing with his finger. And just that simple movement is what gives Eruption its sound when he goes into that part, which I just thought was really ingenious, but very simple.
That's incredible. I feel like we could probably talk literally for hours, guys. Unfortunately, we're out of time right now, but
thank you so much for having me.
No, please, this was awesome. A great crowd, really.
Thank you guys and ladies. Appreciate it. I'm getting fat. I'm good at timing.
Yeah, I'm getting put up a video recently. All the same as ours. Exactly the same. That's why.
After you guys.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys. Seriously. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much,
Good
guys.
night, bro.
Thank you.
See you now.
See you in a couple hours.
Super, super. Thank you guys so much. Much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, great. It's great to see you. Is it all right? We okay? Did we do all right? Good to see you. Thank you guys so much. Very nice. Appreciate everything, guys. Great question. Thank you all so much. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much. That's a great question.